Hello, and welcome back to Cozy with Chelsea. I am Chelsea, your host, and today my guest on the podcast is Natalia, who is my best friend, first and foremost. She's also a hairstylist, and she's also someone who does not drink. And when I say that, I mean alcohol. So, welcome to the podcast, Natalia.
Thank you. Hello, everyone.
Also, perhaps her name might be Natalia. We're not sure.
I'm not sure. I don't know.
After many years of friendship, we're still not sure. But today, really, I wanted to have you on the podcast so we can talk about sobriety and what the process has been like for you and what you've learned. So I suppose we can start there.
We can start there. Thank you for having me.
Of course.
I'm excited and nervous to be here.
No need to be nervous. Well, if you don't mind, could you share, I guess we can start from the beginning of why did you choose to stop drinking and what was that like for you?
So I stopped drinking about 3.5 years ago now. And I think that I had reached a point in my life where I really felt like I was pretty unhappy in a very general sense. And every time I tried to consider what could be making me unhappy, or rather what I could do to make myself happier, that I continuously sort of failed at, even if that's a strong word, promises that I couldn't keep to myself or habits that I couldn't build. I kept circling back to drinking, my drinking habit being what was keeping me from being able to accomplish any of those things. And the more time that passed with me contemplating that, the more I felt like I kept landing on one answer as the key to me being able to shake my unhappiness once and for all.
So you felt that alcohol was holding you back from happiness?
I felt like alcohol was holding me back from everything. I felt like it made me lazier. I felt like it made me crankier. I felt like it kept me from living the active lifestyle I was hoping to, from eating the way that I wanted to, from feeling emotions the way that I wanted to, because everything was ruled by that.
I also experienced a lot of that. And I felt like alcohol was really numbing a lot of really everything.
Everything.
All of my bodily functions, my emotions, my relationships. How long do you think it took you before you finally realized that? Did you have moments along the way? Because for me, there were a few times when I would try to stop drinking and I knew that it was kind of a problem and then finally made the decision. So what was that like for you, and can you relate to that?
Definitely. I think I would even dare say that it was maybe a years-long process. It was a seedling in my brain for a very long time that I thought, and I think many people share a similar experience of a bad hangover and you think, I'm never going to drink again. And then you're cracking open a bottle of wine that night after work, and over and over and over again, waking up in the middle of the night with your heart racing and kind of thinking, what am I doing here? I can't do this again. I can't do this anymore. Going out to things and having those moments when you think, am I even having fun? Is this even fun? I don't feel good. And I definitely think that the thought, it was planted for a long time, but it's a whole life overhaul. And there has to be a moment where you're sick and tired of being sick and tired. And that has to be stronger than everything else. And it takes a really long time to get there. So for me, the moment that I decided to stop drinking, it wasn't anything in particular, but it was truly like a light switch where I just thought, okay, I'm done. But that thought had been rooted and growing. It had deep roots for a very, very long time.
When you had the exact moment that you stopped, was there something specific that happened, or was it just the accumulation of years of considering it?
It was the accumulation of years of considering it. And I know that one of the scariest things for me about giving up drinking was I had no idea what my social life would look like. And I'm somebody who, well into my adult life, has been mostly single, and my friendships were always the most important thing to me. That social life was what I thought was what held me together. I thought that it was what made my life feel full, what gave it purpose, what gave me community and made me feel important. And I thought that I couldn't see what it would look like if I erased that element altogether, because being social can be challenging for me. I'm more introverted than I thought. So I think that the final thought that I had that made me able to finally flip the switch was, if my entire social life dies, it's fine. I think I'm okay with it, because I think that I want to feel healthy and happy more than I need that. And I felt so confident that the giving up the drinking was what I needed to feel healthy and happy. And so then it became the only thing that felt important. And I think that that was the difference, was up until that point, everything else felt like it was more important.
I had something similar. The desire of feeling well has to outweigh the risk or the fear of what you think, whatever that is. For you was your social life, which for me was also a large part of it.
Yeah.
Because everything I did, all of my social circles revolved around alcohol. So I couldn't even imagine a life without it.
Yeah.
Honestly.
I felt like I didn't know how to be funny or charming, or even times when I would push myself to socialize when I wasn't necessarily up for it. I think there's always that story of, I'll be fine after a glass of wine. I'll get a drink in me and I'll be good to go. So I kind of thought that if I took that away, what was going to happen? But like I said, it's that really silly platitude of nothing changes if nothing changes. And I just felt so confident that I knew what had to change. And I knew that it would change everything, but the difference was not caring.
I think this is probably one of the hardest parts of people getting sober, is the social aspect and the expectations that your friends and even family can have, where a lot of people might prefer you to drink. Mm-hmm. Even if it's impacting you or it's detrimental to your well-being, they still want you to drink, which I can relate to, because when I was drinking and a friend wouldn't drink with me, I've always wanted them to drink with me. So I get it. Mm-hmm. However, once you're on the other side, that can be shocking looking back.
Definitely. I think if I'm the most honest with myself that I can be, there's so much social pressure, and the people that love you, I don't think that they realize that they put the pressure on you to do it. And I can relate, because if you're being, again, just totally honest and transparent with yourself, which is one of the hardest things to do, I'm sure that I did the same thing, and I put that same type of pressure on people. And I think I even remember being in heavy drinking social situations and people were there who didn't really drink. And I thought, well, what are you doing here if you're not going to have a glass? Like, don't make me feel weird for having another glass. And it's hard to look into the mirror and admit that you had the same attitude and did the same thing.
I think also oftentimes the fear, for in this example, like our fears with getting sober is our friends won't accept us anymore. At least for me, I see it as I was projecting, because I think I would have acted that way. So that's what made me have that fear. I even remember thinking dry January was lame. I would have those thoughts.
Yeah.
That's something that I definitely experienced. Would you say that your social life did change? How was it once you were sober?
Yes, it did. It did. It changed completely. I had to get a lot more comfortable with alone time. One of the things that I needed to do for myself, it's different for everybody, of course, but it was very self-imposed because I had to isolate in order to stick to what I wanted. I have always struggled with an aspect of my personality, which is that I feel like I can get pulled along with the tide, and I still struggle with it to this day. I feel like it's improved a lot since giving up drinking, because you really have to be your own anchor. And in that regard, I really showed up for myself. But I didn't think that I was strong enough when I made the decision to not get pulled along with the tides. So I just knew that I had to be alone, and I had to say no to things, and I had to separate myself from the situations I didn't want to partake in, not because I didn't want to see my friends or because I didn't want to be at things, but because I simply didn't want to drink. And I knew that pressure or no pressure, even if nobody pressures you, even if nobody says anything at all, the simple being there's a feeling of left out, or that you're a party pooper. You're not participating in what everyone is actually doing, which is spending time together in this way, circled around drinking. So I intentionally pulled myself out for quite a long time. And so it did. That changes your social life immensely.
I mean, it's a 180 almost. I found in the beginning that I would still try to go to everything. So I remember, well, maybe not everything, because I was actually living in New York at the time when I first got sober, and I certainly wasn't trying to stay out until 2 or 3 in the morning, which would have been normal for me on a Friday or a Saturday. Just so crazy.
I can't imagine.
No, so crazy. No. My nights of, yeah, I used to go out till 2 a.m. and then
All the time.
and then I would get home and then I would order fries
Yeah.
anywhere I could find them.
Yeah.
Have them delivered.
It's a very expensive habit.
Yeah. And then wake up the next day and just be sad.
Yeah.
So,
Yeah.
but in the beginning, I did try to do all the things. And I remember one of my first big outings was my brother's birthday. And I was so nervous and uncomfortable. But actually that night I stayed out, I think until like 1 a.m. I think I was the last one to go home, but I think I just had a point to prove. But eventually that very much changed. I no longer am the last one to leave. I'm often the first one to leave. My social life has changed a lot too. How do you feel about it now? How does your social life feel now compared to what it used to be?
It certainly is completely different, but I feel, in general, I just feel a confidence that I didn't have before I quit drinking. And now I think the difference in the beginning, and even when I did make an effort to go to things and participate, that I felt a little insecure and a little bad. And I felt a little bit like I was uncool and just trying to show up anyway. Whereas now I feel like I walk through my social life with confidence, and I feel really confident in what a gift choosing to quit drinking was to me. When I show up at something and I know that I'm not going to be drinking, I do it with the confidence of knowing that I'm choosing my best version of myself and my life and what the rest of my evening and what my next morning and what the rest of my week is going to look like and the overall big picture of what my life looks like. So I don't feel as insecure as I used to. And I own it. I own it if I'm over it after 2 hours. I own it if I'm ready for bed at 8 o'clock. Yeah. I have no problem with that anymore. I don't mind letting that be who I am, who I've become. I don't question that at all.
How did you get to that place with such confidence?
Truly, the repetition of it and a very trust the process thing, because in the beginning, like I quit drinking, I isolated myself, and I didn't feel good immediately. And so there was a period of time where you think, okay, is there a point to this? Is this going to get me where I want to go? But I had that confidence, and I read a lot of books were very, very helpful. So being able to read other people's experiences, knowing that there was a light at the end of that tunnel, I think that what gave me the confidence was when I started to see the fruits of that labor, the fruits of those efforts, and really starting to experience those personal wins and coming out of depression and feeling an enjoyment for life that I hadn't been. That's basically how I got there, was really just committing to the end goal and putting one foot in front of the other until I got there. And then one day you look around and everything feels beautiful and you're not willing to sacrifice it for anything.
Time and consistency is definitely what did it for me. My priorities changed a lot when I quit drinking, because before my priority, I had a lot of FOMO or something. I always wanted to be invited or feel
Definitely.
a part of something. And then as I quit drinking, I realized my peace, joy, happiness, and wellness was much more beneficial and much more of a priority for me than going out and drinking.
Absolutely. You get really comfortable choosing yourself, and you don't feel bad for it, and you realize that's not selfish, because one of the things that I believe of even the most well-intentioned people, your closest friends, your family, your coworkers, anybody, they can be the most well-intentioned people, and the fact of the matter is that almost anybody will take your last drop. Anybody will take whatever it is that you can and will give, and the only person that can draw that boundary and set the line in that sand and honor it is you. And we live in a world, especially if you live in a bigger city or have a bigger life, or you have, for example, I have a very social job. I'm a hairstylist, which means that there's a lot of giving all day, every day. And then being social is a lot of giving after you do that. Having friends, having family, having partners is a lot of giving. And everything requires that you give. And so the only thing that can determine how much of it you will give is you. And you have to get comfortable with maybe being a little bit disappointing sometimes. And you have to just get really comfortable with knowing if that disappointment is in honor of your highest alignment and your greatest self and what you want your life to look like.
That's so beautiful.
Thank you so much.
I couldn't have said it any better. I'm curious earlier you mentioned that you read a lot of books about sobriety. Mm-hmm. So do you have any that were your top picks or most helpful?
Yes. I feel like I got the most in the beginning from a book called Sober Curious. I remember thinking at the time that author's voice was the most relatable. She sounded like anybody that I could have been friends with, anybody that I could have been at a party with, at a dinner with. So I really enjoyed that one. Then there was a book called Quit Like a Woman, and that narrative was a little bit more, it was very factual, very informational, and a little bit can kind of rile you up as to, why is this being shoved down my throat by society, by marketing companies? Who's telling me that I'm supposed to be this way? So the combination of those two, I think, was very helpful. One of them from a factual standpoint and the other one from a more social standpoint. Like I said, from a voice of someone that sounded more like a peer.
I think you recommended that book to me, Quit Like a Woman. Mm-hmm. And I think I read that when I was first getting sober. Mm-hmm. And that book really helped me a lot. I didn't read that many sober books, but I do remember reading that book. And because I actually love the sciencey, the facts, because there's a lot that you learn about alcohol that you had no idea.
Totally.
No idea how it, well, I mean, I guess really, I was just at a party talking to somebody. I don't know if I told you this already, but I was talking to somebody who was sober. And even when I was talking to her, because we were going off about it, and she's a few months sober, but she was talking about how almost like angry or shocked or something, you start to learn, like you said, the marketing of alcohol and how alcohol actually really affects your body and your brain and all of these things. And even when I was talking to her, because I'm at a party where everybody else is heavily drinking, and I was like, well, it's poison. And I found myself even still whispering, 2 years into being sober and proudly sober, but I don't want to bring down the vibe of everybody else. I don't know what I went on a rant about that, but I think the point is just, I really appreciated that book and the facts that she had. And I really enjoyed learning about what it was actually doing to me because I didn't even know. Yeah. I didn't even know that me drinking heavily on the weekends was a major factor in the sadness I was feeling, the anxiety I was having, the health issues I was having.
Yeah, absolutely. It's a long-term effect just from one, wild night, if you will. And yeah, that book was the first time that it made me think of alcohol as it actually is, which is just a poison, And there's a lot of it in the world. Alcohol isn't the only thing, but we certainly don't think of it that way when you're in it and you're looking at it from a place of joy and relief and comfort and, how I end my day with a glass of wine and that makes me feel better. There was always that concept of alcohol poisoning, like you had to have so much of it before you were poisoned. And the reading Quit Like a Woman sort of, brought into perspective that it's poisoned from the beginning. 1 glass is, 2 glasses is. You don't have to be getting your stomach pumped to
really
be
all of
poisoned.
It is alcohol poisoning.
All of it, the whole thing, yeah. Just the varying degrees of it, yeah.
Yeah, that's crazy. It's really crazy. And I just never thought about it in that way, which is wild. But it's just so normal. My family always drank and drank heavily. My friends, it's just what we did. Yeah. I didn't realize I was poisoning myself.
Yeah, exactly. And that's the thing is, like so many things in this world that changing your mindset is the first step to making any kind of lasting changes that we want. And society as a whole and corporations, there's a lot of effort and money put into making sure we don't think of alcohol as poison. There's a lot of effort being made to make sure that we don't view it that way. So it's not anybody's fault that they don't, because we're very, very, very willing to not receive the information that we're not ready to absorb.
I even remember, not when I was getting sober, but even when I was drinking, if I would see something about alcohol, whatever.
Totally.
Yeah. I don't want to hear about that.
That's not for me. I don't need to know. They're being dramatic.
Yeah. They say now that the recommended limits, right? Even those aren't safe amounts of alcohol.
Right.
And I think in Europe it's stricter.
That I don't know.
Or is it more strict here? I'm not sure. But either way, 1 to 2 glasses of wine was not what I was having. So I was well past the safety limit.
I really appreciated you sent me to the Huberman Lab podcast about drinking alcohol. And there's a point where he addresses this, like how much alcohol is safe. And I really appreciated hearing it so matter of fact from him. And you might have to double check me before putting this in just to make sure that I am getting it correctly. But I'm pretty sure I remember him saying, let me be clear, no amount of alcohol is safe. Like that there is no healthy, or maybe not safe, but healthy. There's no healthy amount of alcohol. But if you're asking like what can the body process, then it's whatever X amount he gave within a certain days long period. But I like that he gave that disclaimer in the beginning of, let me be clear, no amount of it is healthy. No amount of it is good for you. This whole like 1 glass of wine is good for your heart. It's all of that is that type of marketing to just keep us doing it.
I had never heard anyone say that ever until he said it. That was a big resource for me, that podcast.
It's fantastic.
Yeah, it's really good. Maybe I'll link that somewhere, but that's a good one. So if someone were just getting sober for the first time and they're concerned about their social life, what would be the advice you could give them?
That's a tough question. It's a tough question because, like we just said, that there's reason to be concerned. It's not easy. I would certainly want them to know how worth it would be, that it would be worth every moment of discomfort to get to where they're aiming for. And I would certainly encourage finding somebody to talk to. I think that that's such an important element in the whole equation, and finding some type of validation and not feeling alone in your decisions. I think that's a big deal. That's really invaluable. So I think that being confident in knowing how worthwhile it's going to be in the end, finding someone to talk to and knowing that it's going to be worth every moment of discomfort. But I don't think that I would sugarcoat it to anybody and pretend that it won't be uncomfortable. It's just one of those things that'll be super duper worth it and better than you could imagine on the other side. You sometimes even look back and think, wow, I can't believe that I thought that it was so much better to hold on to this thing that is holding me back from being who I want to be, because you can't imagine how good it can be on the other side. So that's the part that you have to hold on to, is the dream. I feel like now I'm rambling.
No, it's good.
Okay. But you kind of, it's better than you can imagine it will be on the other end of it.
I would agree with that wholeheartedly. And also, even just every single time I didn't drink, it felt worth it.
Yes.
So in the long run, absolutely worth it when I'm looking back on 2+ years. But even just one night out and I didn't drink, I would feel so good about myself the next day. And that continues to add up. Yep. So yes, it is uncomfortable. It is uncomfortable in the beginning.
So uncomfortable.
Especially if you have been using alcohol as a crutch for social settings. That was a huge piece for me, was learning to be myself in social settings.
Yes.
Because
here I am.
This is what I'm like. Hope you like it. Yeah. Because alcohol was always like, okay, if I'm nervous or uncomfortable, I'll just I'll have a few drinks and everything will be fine. And that was no longer an option for me. Yeah. But every time I did it, the feeling I had the day after, how proud I was of myself and how confident I felt, just kept growing and growing and growing. So the more you do it, the easier it will get.
Totally. I actually remember feeling like, what do I do with this day that would have normally been spent in bed ordering food? And like, okay, how do I fill this up? And I don't know if we talked about, you do feel so great not being hungover the next day. Did we ever talk about having phantom hangovers in the beginning? Because I certainly had phantom hangovers. I would go to a party or I would go to an event and then go to bed and wake up. And that first moment opening my eyes, I just kind of assumed that I felt like garbage. Mm-hmm. And then you finish waking up and you go, oh. No, okay, I feel good. Yeah. I feel good.
Yeah, I could go run a mile right now.
Yeah. And like my tired brain was just anticipating this, I had this muscle memory of just being hungover and not feeling super well. And that happened for quite a long time, actually.
Yeah, I never thought of it in that like term of phantom hangover, but yes, I did experience that. Or you just assume. I actually remember, so this is something I did when I was getting sober, is I kept a note in my phone. I still have it. Mm-hmm. And I would list any revelation that I had along with the journey. And one of them, I can't remember what it was, like a trip or a vacation I had planned. Mm-hmm. And I was doing my work schedule, and it was the Monday after the trip. And I was like, I shouldn't book anything because I'm going to be done.
A reserved
I'm going to be hungover for 4 days.
Yes.
And then I was like, oh, actually, I'll be fine. I could take a call that day.
Totally.
Yeah, that happened to me a lot. And then you realize how much time you have.
Totally.
You never have to be hungover.
So much time.
There's
so
Ever.
much time. Yeah.
You're never hungover.
Yeah.
Another realization I had was because I used the Reframe app when I was getting sober, and I loved it because they had a forum and I could just post all my sober thoughts in there in a community of like-minded people. And one of them was me realizing that the worst I ever feel anymore is just like I'm a little bit tired.
Yes. Yeah, absolutely.
Compared to a soul-crushing hangover that I would experience almost every weekend.
Absolutely. That, and I feel like we haven't even touched on Hangxiety.
Yeah.
Which is so crazy.
Would you like to talk about anxiety?
I mean, I suppose we can. And in general, not only the physically feeling unwell, but that mental tornado the day after a night out and the self-loathing and what did I say? And what did I say? What did I do? Was I too much? And the absence of that, my goodness, and how little by little, I'm still a human being. I still experience anxiety, but it was a very general, prominent part of my everyday life. When I was drinking, I considered myself as simply an anxious person. And now when it comes, I know that it's just a result of something real that's happening to me, and it will pass, and it always does. But that fight or flight feeling finally went away, and I love living free of that. But the anxiety specifically, my God, I don't know how any of us keep going back. I don't know
That's why you would always say, I'm never
drinking again. Yes, totally. It's not necessarily because of the headache. It's because of the self-loathing.
Yes. That was really the main reason that I wanted to stop drinking, because I started to connect that the anxiety, obviously everyone knows that there's a hangover for a day. Then you turn 30 and then it's 2 days. Mm-hmm. Then if you're like me and maybe you already are kind of an anxious person, I don't know, I just felt like I would have a hangover that would last 4 to 5 days. But once you physically recover, I still would have the anxiety going on.
Totally.
And I don't have that anymore.
I don't either. And I feel like learning now that it was this probably self-imposed type of being. And of course, there's people out there who do just experience anxiety as it happens. It's very, very real. And I do still. But for me, learning that it was something that was self-imposed that I was bringing on myself with the poisoning.
We just kept doing it to ourselves over and over again.
Yeah. Right. And that what I thought was this sort of unfixable, unfortunate character trait or human trait that I had that I was going to have to accept was actually something that was, I don't want to say easily remedied because of the journey it was to get there. But again, once you're on the other side of it, easy fix.
Yeah.
Easy fix. It was only one thing to give up instead of all of the things you tried to add, right? You're like, am I going to take anxiety medication? Do I need to be drinking ashwagandha every day? I need to be in the gym, more yoga, more of everything else instead of less of just this one thing.
Yeah. It was like instead of removing alcohol, I was trying to supplement with everything else.
Everything just to cancel out that one thing. Anything to not give it up.
Yeah.
Anything to not give up the drinking.
Yeah. I'm just remembering. I feel like I'm having flashbacks during this conversation. But the Hangxiety is so interesting too because, okay, I might cut this. But
Go for it.
okay. This might be a controversial opinion, but I don't know. I think a piece of the Hangxiety too is that because for me, the self-loathing, right? It was always like shame I would feel for the things I had done the night before. But I also think that was like valid because I wasn't myself, or I said things that weren't really coming from me, who I actually am, and then having remorse over that. I guess my point is that when that used to happen, and it would be like me texting you or texting whoever and being like, was I okay last night? Did I did I say something stupid? And then of course your friends are going to say, no, you were great. It was funny. Yeah. We all thought it was funny when you asked that guy what's the worst thing that's ever happened to him. That's one of my most shameful memories. But I don't know if you agree with that. To wrap it up, my point is that when you remove alcohol, you are fully yourself in social settings. So one, you're not having anxiety just because you're not having the withdrawals, right? Because a hangover is kind of that. But also, you didn't do something because you were your full self. You weren't altered by a substance.
Definitely. I definitely agree with that. I feel like there's the obvious chemical component of anxiety, like you mentioned, but you're 100% right that we do behave sometimes a little bit out of character, or sometimes just this heightened version of ourselves. And I will admit, and you can choose if you're going to cut this whole segment or not. This is kind of a hard one to put out there. No, it's okay, but it is true. It's the conversation we're having. And that one of those hard truths in the social element of drinking is that there's a little bit of a unspoken rule, right? That of course, I think everyone has a boundary when somebody behaves in a way that's hurtful to themselves or people around them. That's always going to be a no-no, right? Social groups in general, we create these unspoken rules and these unspoken social norms within those groups. That's a normal human thing that happens. And when you have groups and friends and people that you drink with, there's an unspoken agreement there of non-judgment, of acceptance, of I'm letting loose, and there's going to be some minor consequences of that, whether it's some loose lips or some silly dance moves, whatever it's going to be. And the agreement is that we're all okay and that we all love each other and that nobody is judging the other. And that tomorrow when I ask you how I did, you tell me I was great. You tell me that I was great, and I'll tell you that you were great. And the thing is that we believe it when we're all in that space together. And that stepping outside of that is your first glimpse into the mirror of, did I actually approve of my own behavior? And that's a really, really, really hard one to look in.
Yeah, it is. But, I mean, to look back on it now, I think it's really important that I was honest with myself about how I was acting in those situations because I didn't like it. I didn't like it. And I knew that because every day I would wake up regretting things I had done. Not that any of it was even horrible or anything. It's just not, you're just not being yourself. And that's what I didn't like, was like the loss of control over who I am and what I do and what I say.
Yeah, absolutely. And my boyfriend also doesn't drink. He quit about 10 years ago. And we've talked a lot about the concept of hiding, that the drinking is just hiding. We're actually hiding when we think that we're loosening ourselves up and giving ourselves permission to let loose for a night, and that you and your friends are connecting And actually, all you're doing is hiding. Everyone is hiding. You're hiding from your problems. You're hiding from your insecurities. And you're numbing yourself, as you described it, from feeling the discomforts that we want to feel. And you're not actually showing yourselves to each other. You're just hiding in the same spot.
That's a good way of putting it. It's interesting what you think is connection when you're drinking. And in comparison now, when I show up for my friends or spend time with people I love and I'm not drinking, I do feel so much more connected than I ever did with alcohol. Because you're really, I mean, in my experience, it really wasn't full, deep, real, raw, authentic connection.
Yeah, it's not. And we think that it is when you're in it. Yeah. And then when you actually start to experience it outside of it, of the vulnerability of not having that drink to loosen you up and to actually show up, like you said, this is who I am. And maybe I don't have much to say every single minute of every day. And maybe I'm not hilarious. Maybe I'm not charming all the time. But that's real. That's real and authentic. And you show up. And for me, it definitely started to paint a picture of how much I actually value quality time. Quality time is sober time and smaller groups, or if not groups at all, less people at one time where you can actually give and receive undivided attention became a priority for me in terms of what I wanted my social life to look like, for sure.
I was going to build off of what you were saying about connecting and really spending time with people. And you were a great resource for me when I was first getting sober because I didn't know anybody else who didn't drink. Yeah. And I honestly think you starting that before me, you were like a real life example of the fact that you can live without alcohol and still have a nice life.
Yeah.
We've talked about it, obviously, but in the beginning, and please correct me if I'm wrong, but I remember you saying you didn't really know anyone who didn't drink. I feel like you didn't have what I had, which was you. But what did your support look like in the beginning? Because I do know you said a lot about feeling alone in the beginning. Does that resonate?
Yes. Definitely resonates.
Okay.
The beginning was a very lonely process for me. And you were living in New York when I quit drinking. And so.
Apologies.
That's okay. And like you said, you were still drinking, but you were always very easy to talk to about it. I think that you were already clear. I mean, obviously you were, because it was maybe a year after me that you quit. So you were already in that phase where you were considering it so heavily that you heard me very easily. Whereas people who are not even considering it don't really want to hear what you have to say about not wanting to drink. And it was very, very lonely. And I had my therapist, which was super important. And we never really did discuss how I consider myself. And I don't really call myself sober because I will have an occasional drink at, say, a wedding or an event or something. But it's so few and far between that I really consider myself a non-drinker, and I don't drink to get drunk anymore at all. So I don't claim the term sobriety. And the reason that I bring that up is because when I was giving up drinking, I would think to myself that I wanted so badly to have somebody to talk to that I considered going to AA meetings. And yet, because I was not so stone cold sober, nor did I think that that was the end goal of my journey, I wasn't sure if that was a place for me. I didn't know that I was welcome, or even if that's where I wanted to go, because I wasn't sure that that was appropriate based on my situation. But I simply wanted to find people to talk to, and I didn't know where to go to find people to talk to. And you've mentioned the Reframe app, which I think that I never really sought that out, so I didn't know that that was available. But I was lonely, and that was the headspace that I was in. I had a therapist, and I talked to her about it, and she was definitely my greatest support. There were some people in my life who were not big drinkers or were practically non-drinkers in the way that I consider myself to be now. However, that wasn't necessarily a source of support either, because people who simply never drank a lot didn't relate to me in the way that I needed, or they didn't hear what I was trying to express when I described that I was changing my lifestyle, that I wasn't drinking, because for them, it's just a given. It's just how they've always been. And there's nothing to relate to in terms of the shift in lifestyle and social circle and the way that you show up in the world in general. So those people were a comfort to be around. It felt really, really, really nice to be in spaces where that pressure didn't exist, but it wasn't necessarily helpful emotionally in terms of what I needed to help get through a hard time.
I think it can be lonely often in the beginning, especially if like both of us, our circles all revolved around drinking. So it can definitely be lonely. But I do think support is important in the beginning for sure. But I'm glad you had your therapist, and I used the Reframe app. But I do wish that there were more communities. I know AA works very well for some people, but there's so many other types of drinkers or non-drinkers or people who don't align with AA, which is why I used Reframe, because you can go on there and they have a cutback track or just fully quitting. So they have both. But it was nice to just be able to like post into the void on there and have people. But really, I mean, I didn't have, I had you, but in real life, I didn't have many outlets to talk to about that. And a lot of people don't get it. And people who never drink certainly don't understand the actual removing of it when you do drink a lot.
Absolutely. And you're right that I really did get a lot of comfort even from following people on social media that had given up drinking or had their own type of journey. And once the algorithm starts to see what you're watching, it spits a little bit more of it at you. And I would go into comments and just read them and feel very validated in that way. People would write little blurbs and things that I related to. It wasn't necessarily engaging, but it felt like real people who had gone through what I had been through. And that felt very comforting too.
I found social media to be very helpful, actually, in the beginning, and followed a lot of sober people. And I also, my sober tool was my notes app, because it contained all the reasons why I want to be sober, all the benefits of sobriety. For me, I consider myself sober. And then I would list every single person that I knew, whether that's in real life or a famous person, whatever, that was sober. Because when you're first getting sober, it was good for me to see examples of successful people or people I admired that were also sober. All of that was very helpful and a resource for me.
Yes, I loved that. The more that I sought out that type of content on social media, one of the things that came up a lot, I know celebrity this, celebrity that, but well-known figures would come across my page, people that I had no idea that were sober, and especially in that world, most of them had to fight for it. And seeing different interviews and little blurbs and hearing people that we often glamorize describe their hardship, grew to really, really love those kinds of clips, and really this very, very human side of a lot of people that just get put on a pedestal a lot. There was something very like, woof, if they can do it, I can do it.
Yeah.
If they can do Hollywood and stand firm and give it up and show up in their lives sober, if they can do it, I can do it.
Yeah.
It felt very like, who am I? Not that I'm thinking that celebrities are so much better than the average person or anything like that. They're just human beings too. But there is something about like, if the demands of their life didn't stop them from doing it, I know that the demands of my life won't stop me from doing it. I know that I can.
Yeah. Again, a celebrity, I don't know who they are.
Yeah,
but
of course.
Still, you can see someone who, it just kind of expands your view of sobriety and what that looks like, and just noticing who is sober. And there's a lot of people who are sober.
A lot.
And a lot of successful people, and a lot of athletes.
Oh, yes.
Which I never really thought about until getting sober, is you can't be binge drinking and be a professional athlete. I mean, you can.
You can.
But a lot of them don't drink, or they specifically won't drink when they're about to compete. Or like Taylor Swift, I think she didn't drink for all of the tour or something like that, or preparing for the tour.
Cannot confirm.
That might be a
or deny.
myth.
I'm not sure.
I'm not sure.
I'm not
but
sure. I'll have to fact check that
I'm
one.
going to hope it's true. But to achieve certain things, a lot of people who are successful will be sober because it gives them the time, energy, health, well-being, mental fortitude to do that. Did you have a favorite sober celebrity, though?
Honestly, I really enjoyed hearing Bradley Cooper talk about his sobriety. I don't know what it was about him, but every time he was on my screen, I liked what he had to say. And again, I might be wrong, but I'm going to go on a limb and say I think Jennifer Lawrence.
Oh, is she? I
You
didn't
might
know
have
that.
to
But
cut it out. It might be wrong.
I think
We're going
she
to have to
is.
fact check.
I
But
think
I
she
feel
is.
like I remember thinking that I really enjoyed also seeing interviews with her. Those are the two that come to mind. But that's
Yeah.
the first thing that I imagined was Bradley Cooper. I think it was one that I didn't know. I was moved by what I heard him talk about.
I always was obsessed with Lucy Hale before I knew she was sober.
Yeah.
I mean, I found her by first watching Pretty Little Liars. So that's where I watched it. Yeah, you never seen it? It's like very good and also bad. But I was always obsessed with her. And then she came out. It almost does feel like a coming out sometimes.
Yes.
When you get sober or stop drinking. But I really loved that she was sober because I was like, okay, cool. She's cool. I can do it. I can be cool still in whatever way that means. Cool.
Whatever way that means. Totally.
Yeah.
Man, being cool was kind of a big part of it.
Yeah.
I really felt like it was, I hate to admit that I think I cared a lot about seeming cool.
Absolutely.
I really.
That's like why I started it in the first place.
Yeah, yeah. I wouldn't say it's why. Okay, maybe. I feel like maybe it was half and half for me. That was probably half of it, definitely. But I certainly felt like it became how I defined my coolness.
Well, it's marketed.
It was the coolest accessory I had was
Yeah.
being a cool drinker, a heavy drinker, kind of rock and roll or
Yes.
something.
Yeah, and then it was like, how cool of a drinker can you be?
Yeah, exactly. What do you drink?
Uh-huh.
Are you a lady that can throw back some whiskey? Because that's cool.
Yeah. Can you have a dry martini? Yeah, I can have 5.
Actually, watch me.
And then hate myself the next day. But I can do it.
But I can do it. Yep.
Okay, let's raise the vibe a little bit.
Do it.
What are some really positive changes you've seen in yourself?
I think this might be very cliche, but it really, really, really drove home for me how capable I am of doing anything that I set my mind to. Because I think that one of the most challenging things that we do is stand in our own beliefs and our own truth and disappoint other people in order to be true to ourselves. And for me, I would say that out of everything I've done in my life, this was the biggest one. That was one of the most positive takeaways that I had, was the confidence that it gave me in myself and in my ability to stand up for myself.
I would agree. I think that's a big one for me too. I'm immensely more confident than I used to be.
Night and day.
Yep. And I also think that quitting drinking is like a it's like exposure therapy for learning how to set boundaries.
Yes.
Because you have to, I mean, you have to.
You have to.
It's
You
a
have to.
It's a big thing in the beginning, and people, I mean, at least in my experience, people will try to get you to drink still. Or they'll be like, all right, so really how long are you doing this? Or,
Yes, yes.
and it's like, no, seriously, no.
Yeah.
Seriously,
Yeah.
not drinking.
Yeah.
Are you ready for some fun rapid fire
Yes.
questions?
Hit me.
Okay. What is your favorite cozy drink?
Ooh. Tea. Tea. I love a hot cup of tea, a loose leaf tea specifically. I've grown really fond of, with some honey. Cozy all the way in a big, big, big giant mug.
Yeah.
I love a giant mug.
What kind of tea are you drinking right now?
You actually bought it for me. It's become my favorite. It's that chamomile was it the Portland Tea Company?
Oh, yeah. That one is so good.
Yeah, I'm obsessed with it. And I do also really like I think they call it butterfly pea flower because it turns purple. It's purple tea and it's really beautiful.
It's very cute.
I love it. It brings me so much joy.
I need some of that.
And it's tasty. It tastes great too,
Yeah.
obviously. It's not just purple. It tastes delicious.
Will you make me some?
I would love to.
Okay. Early sobriety, survival, snack, or food.
Oh my gosh. I mean, the sugar in general, the sugar. I was ordering crumble cookies to my door on a really regular basis. Big giant bowls of chocolate chip ice cream and some like fries, lots of French fries. That became my go-to for sure.
I always say and this comes from someone now who tries to not ever have added sugar, but when you first stop drinking, I just go for it.
Yes.
That honestly.
1,000%. So I'm same train as you. I have tried to cut out added sugar. That was a whole other journey. That could be a whole other podcast, actually. But when I first quit drinking, I gave myself permission. I said, "You do whatever you gotta do, girl, and whatever and I was so conscious of when I was doing it, the crutch that it was, and that it was going to be temporary. It lasted about a year and a half to 2 years, but I knew it for the tool that it was. And then that, just like my drinking, I reached a point where I realized that, okay, you're doing this because, I mean, it feels good to eat these cookies, but now we've gained some weight and I love myself anyway. And it's all self-love here. And I love the body that I'm in. And I love this tool that got me where I needed to be. But now this is also about my health and my life. And now this is still something holding me back from having the active lifestyle that I want and being my best self. And so now it's time to let this go too. So that was part of the journey.
Mm-hmm. I absolutely gave myself full permission to eat whatever I wanted.
Anything.
Whatever I wanted. Often it was sweets, but even just like, okay, I'm going to order a lot of Chinese food right now. Because initially your brain is looking for the dopamine that alcohol was giving it. Yeah. You know what? I was perfectly fine with eating whatever I wanted. Yeah. But it was a lot of ice cream. And I remember buying cupcakes specifically and just eating a whole cupcake, which now is something I wouldn't normally do, but now I kind of want a cupcake.
We do what we got to do.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I let that go, whatever.
Totally.
And then once I felt a little bit more secure in my sobriety, then I started working on. But for me personally, even eating more than I was eating before I stopped drinking, I still lost weight. That was just me, which I thought was crazy because it made me realize how much alcohol, like first of all, alcohol is you're just intaking calories, empty calories, but also, like I said, I'm ordering poutine fries at 2 a.m.
True.
every time I'm drinking, and it affects your metabolism too. So it was kind of crazy to watch that happen. Yeah. And that was not my intention with drinking, was not to lose weight.
No,
it was just
nothing to do with that.
just an unexpected side effect.
The crumble cookies specific, I would order the lineup, the box of 4, and then I would cut them into quarters, and I would take a quarter from each one to make a whole cookie.
Yeah.
And then do that periodically throughout the week and grab a slice here and there. But my weeks were very crumble cookie dependent.
Yeah. Okay, great. I just want to ask, what is your go-to non-alcoholic drink?
Ooh, that's a great question. I have a current favorite, so I'm just going to answer that. But
Okay.
Since wine was what I loved to drink, and just culturally, I loved the whole European vibe of a glass of wine, and I love the glassware. I love wine glass. I think I miss being able to recreate that. And so right now there is a white wine called Hollow Leg, and it's a de-alcoholized wine from Spain.
Oh.
And it's slightly bubbly, not too bubbly, and I love it. It's delicious.
It is hard to find a good non-alcoholic wine.
It is.
So it's called Hollow
Leg.
Leg. Okay. Well, I need to have some of that.
Yes. I'll bring some over.
I like for any non-alcoholic drink to still be in nice, fancy glassware.
Love it.
It's very important to me. Mm-hmm. I can't stand when it's in just like a regular cup or even when I was drinking, I liked a fancy glass. Who doesn't like a fancy glass?
Totally. I love a stem. Yep. We all like to feel special.
Yeah. Okay. A sober joy that you didn't see coming.
A sober joy that I didn't see coming.
Yes.
Is being in bed by 9 o'clock.
Yeah.
by 8:30, 9 o'clock, crawling into bed, wrapping up the day, reading for a little, whatever it takes until your eyes get too heavy. But I love going to bed at 9.
Yeah, I also love going to bed at 9. And I've gotten my husband on the same schedule because he was not like that when I first met him. And there's really nothing better than going to bed at 9 and waking up at 6. Mornings are the best time. That was a revelation of mine when I quit drinking, was how much I loved the mornings.
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay, next question. What's your dream sober weekend activity?
I love this question. I am a hiker, so I love a hike. And specifically, since we're going dream scenario, like something new, something very involved, somewhere really beautiful. That's not the typical places that I would go. I also love farmers market Sundays. I love a stroll through a farmers market, an art market, getting to pick up food and go home and cook. Days like that. Those are my dream kind of days and activities.
Would you say that a sober life is a cozy life?
Oh, yeah. The coziest. It is. Everything about it is so cozy.
Yeah. I mean, obviously I've always loved cozy, but I really think sobriety was a big part of it for me. It's 100% a cozy life.
100% a cozy life.
Yeah. Or maybe it just gave me the time to pursue all the cozy things. I'm not sure. Chicken or the egg. I don't know.
Yeah. I mean, it definitely can be. I do associate cozy with wholesome, and there's something wholesome about non-drinking life. And this actually reminds me one of the prep questions that you had given me. But because you had asked in this lineup, what's the most surprising or unexpected part of the journey so far? And one of the things I said was how calm life feels and the appreciation for little moments, because that's all life is, a constant repetition of tiny moments. Drinking had me living for really big highs, and sobriety has me living for consistent, happy, tiny little moments of prolonged happiness. And I feel like that's what cozy life is just a bunch of tiny, teeny, tiny, happy little moments. And so that's why I do feel like a sober life is a cozy life.
Yeah. I agree. Per usual. All my life it consists of now is coziness.
Yeah.
Really.
Yeah.
Even if I have to go somewhere where other people are drinking, I still feel cozy in me. You know?
Yes.
And like I went to a friend's birthday party, which was great, and I had a great time, and then I went to bed
Yeah.
when everyone went on the party bus.
Totally. That's a good feeling too.
What is something that you used to tolerate that you no longer do?
I no longer tolerate being places that I don't want to be. My attention span, my tolerance, my patience is very, very short for it. And I've started to own that drinking was a way to just heighten my tolerance for things that didn't bring me joy. And now I honor that tolerance and I don't stay where I don't want to be longer than I need to.
That had me thinking how I've been thinking a lot about my intuition lately, and I feel like I'm much more connected to it. I don't think I connected this until right now, but with alcohol, you're numbing everything. And so there's a disconnect from your intuition. And I think that being fully present allows me to tap more easily into that, like whether it's a yes or a no for me.
Definitely.
And that totally applies to things I don't want to do, people I don't want to talk to,
Absolutely.
all of that.
Yeah. Yeah, I think in general, I could describe drinking as heightening my tolerance for displeasure. And that can be conversations, that can be relationships, that can be environments. And the big reason why life is so much better without drinking, because you have no choice but to honor yourself. Because when you feel that discomfort, you're not willing to sit with it.
That's so true. Okay. This is a weird one.
Okay. Hit me.
If you were a candle, what scent would you be?
I am a tobacco patchouli candle for
Wow.
sure. Maybe not patchouli. I'm a tobacco candle for sure.
Okay.
I know that sounds weird, but it doesn't really smell like tobacco, but they're delicious. Like maybe a tobacco vanilla.
Yeah.
I love that.
I get what you're saying.
That's it. That's the kind of candle I am.
That was a fast answer.
I know. I
You
feel
had
it.
that locked and ready to go.
Yep. Yep.
All right. Easy.
Easy.
What's something you would tell yourself if you could look back when you were first not drinking?
I feel a little bit like a broken record, but that it will be worth it. That it will be worth it and that it will get better. Because again, for me, it wasn't better immediately. And I would let myself know that there's a whole lot of self-love on the other side of what we're doing. And that life is awesome.
Yeah. And I feel like for me, a big thing is how much you're going to grow.
Yes, so much.
Yeah. I grew in every way. Well, besides height wise. But but every other way.
Every other way.
Wonderful. Well, I always ask, this is the absolute last question.
Okay.
I think. Nope. Second to last question
to last.
that I have for
Okay.
you is, what is making you cozy this week?
Ooh, this week, let's see here. Yesterday, I got to go kayaking, and I feel like that connected to nature time and adventure and physical exertion, being outside, that made me feel really cozy. I like that.
Yep. We were just talking about that when we had dinner the day before you went kayaking at 5 in the morning.
So at 4:30 a.m.
Sober life is 4:30
I was
a.m.
going to say drinking Nata could never.
But there is nothing better than like an early morning nature activity in the sun.
The best.
Then you come home, the best. Put on shower.
Shower.
Put
Oh, the
on
best shower.
pajamas, and just lay around and eat and watch
That
something.
was it. Yep.
So good.
Yeah.
So
90s rom-coms.
Ah!
And I know, it's so good. Started Me Before You, and we were snoring by 9.
Nice.
So I had to pause it. We couldn't finish it. And we were asleep by 9:30, I think.
That's the
out.
perfect
It was
day.
great.
Okay. That's very cozy.
Super cozy.
Wait, what's making me cozy? I didn't think about it. This is what's making me cozy currently. First of all, this sweater, because I just really like it.
Good one.
And I'm excited to wear, it's still like 100 degrees out, but I don't care. I'm going to wear a sweater, and I'm excited to wear more sweaters. So that's making me cozy. And this is a follow-up to a previous podcast I had where I talked about how Anthropologie released their fall collection. And I did go back to Anthropologie, and I did buy a candle that has ghosts on it, and it's Palo Santo something else mixed with it, but that's the scent, and it's so good.
You're ready.
Yeah, I'm beyond ready.
I am also ready.
Extremely.
Yeah.
Yeah, so that's what's making me cozy this week.
I love that. I was sitting here looking at your sweater, thinking about how I wanted to wear a sweater, talked myself out of the sweater due to it being August.
Yeah.
And then was watching you thinking I should have worn a sweater because I'm ready for them too.
Yeah, I don't care. I'm still going to wear a sweater even if
Yeah.
it's super hot.
I do it at home.
Okay, well, is there anything that you would like to plug, or where can the listeners find you?
I'm not plugging anything. I have nothing to plug. But listeners can find me on Instagram. I am at _the_hair_gardener_ on Instagram. And I rarely post, but if I do, it's usually about my garden and not about the hair that I do, but I do hair. And that's where I'm at.
Well, thank you so much for being on the podcast.
Thank you for having me. This was a lot of fun.
It was. I will link Natalia's Instagram.
Thank you.
And I'll link my website and all of my stuff in the show notes per usual. But that's it. Thank you so much for being on the podcast.
My pleasure.
Okay, you want to say bye with me? 3, 2, 1.
Bye.